Alright, so yesterday on Thursday we did our MLA text citations, and on Friday we did our MLA Work Cited page. So for those of you who missed, or if you need a little refresher, or you want to watch it again, I'm gonna make this little presentation for you, alright? Just our little turtle, he's our little mascot for today. So your Work Cited page is for your reader to see the sources that you have and be able to find them if they want to. So when you have your in-text citation and you have the person's last name in there, what they'll do is they'll find that person's last name in the Works Cited page and then go find that source, especially if they want to like fact check you, or sometimes, remember when we looked at finding the primary sources, when you'd go and you have so many sources and they have all their references, and you would go in and say, oh well, this person, I like what this person said right here, I'm gonna go find this in their references so I can find this source and maybe they'll have more for me. That's the other reason you have a Works Cited page. One thing to remember with your Works Cited page is that it must be in alphabetical order. Okay, so when you're arranging them according to the last name, you have to put them in alphabetical order. You do not have to separate them like in our example packet where it says like the book and it gives you a book citation and then like a magazine. You don't have to separate them like that. Just do it in alphabetical order. Alright, so where do I find the information I need? I'm going to go through some examples with you. So I picked out this magazine article that we can that I will show you where to find the information. Alright, so this is the magazine article I found, and this will be the information that you would look for. So right here is our magazine title. Here is our article title, okay, and then we have our author right here and the date that it was published. Sometimes if the author isn't here at the top, sometimes it might be at the bottom. Sometimes with newspaper stories or little articles in other magazines, they have who it was by at the bottom. The other thing that you could find at the bottom sometimes is the date it was published as well, but also some information. Remember when we said when you're looking for the credentials of your person, it's not with the name. Sometimes it might be at the bottom, like this one is. It gives his credentials of when he's a contributing writer for the magazine and he's an assistant professor at Emerson College. So sometimes you can find their credibility at the bottom. Sometimes you can also find if it's in print, if it was in print before. So in this case, this one was not in print before, but it does state that it will be in print. But sometimes you can find if it's been in print before. So remember, we have our magazine title, our article title, our author, and the date it was published. And then, of course, we have our website. The other thing that we have to look for is who the publisher or sponsor is. And what you can do is you can go here at the bottom, if you can see it, to usually at the bottom where they have the copyright. That is going to tell you who the publisher is. In this case, it's the New York Times Company. That's who the publisher or sponsor is. Okay, so we have our information. Right, and this is how you would set it up. You put your last name, comma, first name of the author, your article title, magazine name, italicized because it's the bigger picture. So when things are inside things, so like an article inside a magazine, you put it in quotation marks. If this were a book, you would do, and you were doing a chapter, you would put the chapter in quotation marks and the book's name italicized. The publisher, which we found was a New York company. If there isn't one, then you do capital N period P period. Okay, and this goes for if you don't have a publisher on anything, really. So Then you do the date of the publication, which we saw was April 7th. And you would set it up day, month, year. So if it were April 7th, like that article is, it would be 7, April, and then 2016. All months must be abbreviated to 3 letters, except May, June, and July. So for instance, April would be capital A and then PR, period, to be abbreviated. If there isn't a date, then you would do N period D period. So then that'll show if it doesn't have a date that it was published and you got it on the web, it'll give a differentiation between the date published and the date that you accessed it. And then your medium, which is the form of it. So in this case, it would be the web, then the date that you accessed it. Set up again the same way, day, month, year. And keep in mind that you don't put these parentheses here. I'm just doing that to show you how it should be set up. So our citation would look like this. So we have our author, the title of the article, the magazine title. This is our publisher. Then you do a comma. Then you do the date that it was published, got it on the web, and then the date that it was accessed. Alright, so a magazine from a database. So this is a magazine from a database. And here is our title, right here, this unhappy tiger. Bob Bergen is our author. Sometimes in this case, when it's print like this and they only scan in the like maybe the story from one part of the journal, so they don't give you the title of the journal or magazine. Sometimes the title of the journal or magazine will be down here by the page numbers. So that's going to be my magazine title. And it also gives me the date that it was published, so January 2011. So those are the things that I have from this, and because it's also scanned in, I have the page numbers, so we can have that in there as well. Sometimes if you get it off of a database and it doesn't give you all the information you need, you can, typically in a database it gives you this detailed record and it'll give you the information you need. So here we have the author, this is the magazine title, the date it was published. In this case it gives me the volume and the issue number. With magazines and journals that are not scholarly, you don't need the volume or the issues. But then it also gives you the page numbers. And then usually if it's a database, it'll give you the database down here. This one, it seems to not have one. So if I were to do a citation for this one, this is what it would look like. You do your last name, first name, just like the other one, your article title, the title of the magazine, the date published, set up the same way, day, month, year, colon, and then you give the page numbers, then you would give the database italicized, the medium, which in this case, because it's a database, would be on the web, then your date accessed. So for this one, it would be Bob Bergen's our author, Unhappy Tiger, it's our article title, Aviation History is the magazine, the publication was January 2011, I have my colon here with the page number range, and if it were to have a database, this is what it would look like. It would be right here, and then the web, and then the date that I accessed it. Sometimes when you have a newspaper, you have it's printed first and then scanned in online. So in this case, this would be what you would have to look for. Okay, so I chose the New York Times. So this is the title of our newspaper. We have our date that it was published, Thursday, April 7th. I chose this Panama Papers as the article that I wanted to use. Then here is our authors, writers. But then in this case, because it is the New York Times, and the New York Times is usually published in other cities like Toronto, you have to look for the city that it was published in. So in this case, ours was published in New York, so you would have to put in that information. The other thing you would have to look for is sometimes newspapers, especially big ones like the New York Times, publish 2 editions. They will do one in the morning and one in the afternoon. And typically they will have different information. So what you'll do is you'll look for the edition, which is in this case here. So this is the late edition. The other thing is that, so in this case it's on the first page of the newspaper. And right here it says that it continues on page A7. Okay, so keep that in mind when we're looking for our page numbers when we do our citation. So if we're going to cite this, this is what we would have to do. Again, same thing, last name, first name of our authors, article title, newspaper title, and the date it was published, comma, an edition if there is one, and in our case there is, it's the late edition. Do the colon, the page numbers, name of the website that you got it from. So if you're getting it online, then that's what it's going to be. Obviously, then you got it on the web, and the date that you accessed it. So for ours, it would be, here's our authors, here's our title, this is our newspaper title, and in brackets we have to put the city that it was for, the date that it was published, and here we have our late edition. And here we have our page number. So it starts on A1, and you can see this plus sign here. What that means is that there's more to it, but that it's not on consecutive pages. So if it had gone from A1 to A2, then I could have just done A1-A2 to show that that's the range that it was on. But because it goes on A7 and it's not consecutive, you put the plus sign there to tell the person that there's more to it, but it's on a different page that's not consecutive. So if you had something in a magazine or journal that was on page 62 and it continued on page 68, then you would do 62 and then a plus sign to tell your person, the person who's looking at it, that it starts on page 62 and it goes on, but it's not consecutive. Then we have our name of the website, so the New York Times, and then got it on the web, and then the date that it's accessed.